It's not actually a settlement. It's not actually for $1.8 billion. There's going to be effectively no oversight whatsoever. Even if there is an audit, then Todd Blanche he appoints the person who does the audit. He can veto the audit if he wants to. This is one of the most transparent and corrupt acts that I've seen. And in this presidency, that's actually a difficult standard.
You're shaking your head.
Well, that's not correct.
John Iadarola recently appeared on Caitlin Collins' CNN show, with Alex Michelson filling in as host, and the debate quickly turned heated. Representing the Young Turks, John went head-to-head with Katie Zachariah, a MAGA commentator known for throwing out the usual, "What about Biden?" and "What about the Democrats?" Both sides pushed hard during the clash, and now we're going to break down some of the biggest moments from this CNN debate. Let's get into it.
I'll bring in my political sources, conservative legal and political strategist Katie Zachariah on the right, and host of the Damage Report on the Young Turks Network, John Iadarola on the left. Great to see both of you. Welcome. John, is this good strategy for Democrats, the idea of impeachment?
I agree with Josh that it should be aired out in public, and it is possible that this is the sort of thing, especially involving the J6ers, that could potentially break through. And I think it's wildly unconstitutional, illegal. As a patriotic American, it makes me sick that they would do this. That said, there's an opportunity cost to focusing on this over some issues that are already proven to be dragging on Donald Trump's numbers: the war in Iran, gas prices, the Epstein scandal. Like, if you are focusing on this, you're not focusing on those things. There's a chance that this could break through, or it could be one of those things that to us is super relevant, but could be a little bit abstract to regular people.
Your thoughts?
Well, I take first issue with the GOP senators and Senator Cruz. I would have loved to see that outrage to Merrick Garland during the Biden.
With MAGA supporters, it always turns into, "Yeah, but what about Biden?" No matter what happens. It feels like there's no level of corruption or illegality Donald Trump could reach that would make people like Katie Zachariah stop defending him. Even during debates on CNN, the response is always the same. "Yeah, but what about Biden? Yeah, but what about the Democrats?"
Home, and I saw none of that outrage or pulling.
Well, they weren't big fans of Merrick Garland, were they?
But they weren't, torching him like they said they were to acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Look, there is precedent. Obama had a precedent. It's called Keep Siegel. It was a $760 million fund, and it was people who had grievances against the federal government. President Trump and his family are not receiving any money from this. They have put their hands out. This is for other people who.
Does anyone really believe that Donald Trump and his family won't make money from this somehow? Outside of hardcore MAGA supporters like Katie Zachariah, who actually believes none of that money could end up going straight into Trump's pocket or his family's pockets. The biggest issue is that there's likely going to be no real oversight here. So how would anyone even know if money was being taken behind the scenes? They keep saying Donald Trump won't get any of this money. But does anybody seriously want to bet on that?
Have claims, and there are many already that have stepped up to the plate. This isn't a payout to his family, as he said. This is a payout to people who have been that their justice system has been weaponized against them.
Do you think that folks involved with January 6th deserve a payout from the federal government?
If they were targeted, and I think there is a delineation on violent offenders and people that were targeted just for being at the Capitol. There are people that were there that were not violent, that were targeted, their businesses were targeted, and then they either were imprisoned or fined, and I think they had a hard time getting out from under that. They should be able to receive compensation if there wasn't due process on, were you violent, how did you participate in this? Now, if you were violent and you did something at the Capitol that needs evaluation, sure, but this is a huge difference, and they're taking one small group of people and casting a big net around everyone, and I think that really undermines the fact that there was a weaponized judicial system under Biden, and it needs to be addressed.
Is this a good use of $2 billion of taxpayer money?
It's better than more ballrooms, I suppose. But no, it's a terrible use. And people keep throwing the $2 billion around. There's nothing in the document that says it's limited to $1.8 billion. It could be whatever they want it to be, and they could change their mind over time. There's a lot that's being colloquially thrown around that doesn't actually bear out in the document. It's not actually a settlement. It's not actually for $1.8 billion. There's going to be effectively no oversight whatsoever. Even if there is an audit, then Todd Blanche he appoints the person who does the audit. He can veto the audit if he wants to. This is one of the most transparent and corrupt acts that I've seen. And in this presidency, that's actually a difficult standard.
You're shaking your head.
Well, that's not correct. There are 5 people that review the cases. The president he can fire them, but they have to be hired the same way.
Are these supposed to be people with high moral values, like Pete Hegseth? Obviously, that's sarcasm. Or people like Blanche and the rest of the Trump administration crew? Seriously, is there anyone outside of hardcore MAGA supporters like Katie Zachariah who believes these won't just be loyal Trump allies running everything? At this point, it wouldn't even be surprising if he placed members of his own family on the board. The whole situation just feels like corruption on top of corruption.
And there's a lot of oversight going on in this, and it's not $2 billion, it's not $1.8 billion, it is a restricted fund, it's $1.776 billion.
But that isn't an actual document, that's just a thing they've said.
And any funds after 2028 that are not used will be reverted back to the federal government, unlike Biden's term, where $300 million went to NGOs that didn't even apply for their grievances. So there is a big difference, and there will be oversight. And I think Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche will make sure of that.
Another big story that seems to be breaking tonight is the war with Iran and this debate that seems to be happening within the president's cabinet of whether to move forward with more military action. We have seen that this military action has been deeply unpopular for the American public. Do you think it potentially is worth it to start up the war with Iran again?
Well, look, we have no visibility on the documents and that he's able to see to make these types of decisions. If you're reading the tea leaves, he's spoken with all of the world, the leaders in the surrounding region, Saudi, UAE, Qatar. What I'm really noticing is this restriction on the Taiwan weapon deal and what kind of pressure China is going to put on Iran here. Now, what that says to me is he's looking for avenues to put pressure on Iran rather than engage in further war. And if you have these surrounding countries that are able to help do that and leverage this, I think we can arrive somewhere. Now, is it a good idea? I can't definitively answer that because the president has...
Do you think the war is going well?
Look, the president is dealing with a regime that wants to build a nuclear weapon, and I think we can all agree the world will not be safer if Iran has a nuclear weapon. Is it unpopular? Yes, but sometimes doing the hard thing is very unpopular.
John.
Yeah, I think it's wildly unpopular. I think both of the way that it's been persecuted, the way that it was messaged around, and also that it directly contradicts basically everything that Donald Trump was saying when he campaigned. I think that's why not just people are frustrated, but particularly independents who crossed over to Trump in 2024, and plenty of Republicans, especially younger Republicans, that absolutely despise this war. I think that Donald Trump should find some way to wind it down. I think that if blowing Iran up was going to solve the problem, it would have solved the problem the last times that we decimated them and sent all their ships to the bottom of the sea. We've done this before. It didn't get them to fold. I mean, maybe he'll make a case for how this is going to be different, but I haven't heard anything. I don't expect it.
Why do you think this is going to be different?
Well, I want to highlight that President Trump in his first term had sanctioned Iran, and he pulled out of the nuclear deal, and he was able to really pull back. And Hezbollah was defunded, Hamas was running out of money, and then October 7th happens when Biden rescinds all of these programs, all of the sanctions that President Trump had. So here we are 4 or 5 years later having to fix problems that President Trump was on the path to fixing. So yes, ex post facto, it's not fun to have to go in and say, look, you can't build a nuclear weapon. We were on the way to doing that. Biden didn't continue that. So I think it's absolutely necessary for President Trump to continue to say what he did say, which is you may not have a nuclear weapon.
Last sentence to you. Is this Biden's fault?
Why not? Sure. I wasn't a huge fan of Biden. Put that on him.
Okay, there you go. I guess we found something you guys agreed on. John, Katie, great to see both of you. Have a great weekend. We appreciate it.
I liked how John Iadarola flipped the usual, yeah, but what about Biden argument back on them, because that was actually a smart move near the end of the debate. And to give Katie Zachariah some credit, at least she didn't repeat the same 47 years or world's #1 state sponsor of terror lines that almost every MAGA commentator seems to say on these shows. She still said a lot of nonsense, but at least she avoided those usual talking points. I also want to go back to the whole $1.776 billion thing because, honestly, it just feels childish and gimmicky, which pretty much matches this administration's style. Now, I disagree slightly with John Iadarola on impeachment because if Democrats take control during the midterms, I think they should focus on nonstop investigations and hearings instead. They should be digging into every corruption claim possible and charging people if actual crimes were committed. But impeaching Trump again probably won't change much unless they could actually remove him from office, and everyone already knows that's unlikely to happen. So personally, I think investigations and hearings would be far more effective. As for the January 6 argument, MAGA commentators like Scott Jennings and Katie Zachariah always claim there were innocent people caught up in everything. But if that's true, then they should start naming actual people and showing proof. If someone was only standing outside peacefully holding a sign and truly did nothing illegal, then where are the examples? Where are the names and cases? Because from what we've seen, the people who were charged went through the legal process and were accused of real crimes. But let me know what you think about all of this. Do you agree with John Iadarola? Have you seen him on CNN before? I honestly think he handles debates against MAGA commentators pretty well, and I'd like to see him do more of these appearances. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.